a night that changed everything. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the ballroom floor as Reagan Brooks adjusted the pearl necklace at her throat. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. The annual Riverside Charity Gala was the event of the season, and as the curator of the prestigious Westmont Gallery, she was expected to attend. She smoothed down her emerald silk gown, trying to focus on the elegant surroundings rather than the gnawing anxiety in her stomach. She had seen him across the room 20 minutes ago. Tyler Morrison. Her ex-boyfriend. The man she had spent 6 months running from. The predator's approach Reagan kept her back to the wall, nursing a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking. Her eyes scanned the crowd, tracking Tyler's movements as he worked his way through the guests. He wore an expensive suit that probably cost him 3 months of rent, paid for with money borrowed from people he would never pay back. His dark hair was slicked back, and that smile that once charmed her now looked like a wolf's grin. When their eyes met across the room, his expression shifted. The pleasant mask dropped, replaced by something cold and possessive. He started moving toward her with purpose, and Reagan's heart hammered against her ribs. She set down her glass and turned toward the terrace doors, hoping to slip outside before he reached her. Trapped in silk and shadows, the terrace was a mistake. Reagan realized at the moment the cool night air hit her face. The space was empty, decorated with twinkling lights and flowering vines, but isolated from the party inside. She heard the door open behind her and spun around to find Tyler blocking her only exit. "Reagan," he said, his voice deceptively soft. "Did you really think you could avoid me forever?" She lifted her chin, trying to appear braver than she felt. "Tyler, this is not the time or place. Please leave me alone," he laughed, a harsh sound that made her skin crawl. He stepped closer, and she backed against the stone balustrade. "Leave you alone? Baby, you are mine. You always have been. That restraining order is just paper. You think that can keep us apart?" "It is not paper," she said firmly. "It is a legal order. You are violating it right now." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist hard enough to make her gasp. "You ruined my life. Got me fired from my job, turned my friends against me. You owe me. The stranger's intervention, I suggest you remove your hand before I remove it for you." The voice was low, commanding, and carried the weight of absolute authority. Tyler's grip loosened slightly as both of them turned to see a man standing in the terrace doorway. Reagan had never seen him before, but she recognized power when she saw it. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his custom black suit perfectly. His dark hair was styled with casual precision, and his face could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, straight nose, and eyes so intensely blue they seemed to glow in the dim light. But it was not his looks that made Tyler step back. It was the way he carried himself, like a man who had never been told no in his entire life. "Who the hell are you?" Tyler demanded, trying to reclaim his bravado. The stranger did not answer Tyler. Instead, his piercing gaze moved to Reagan, assessing her with one sweep of his eyes. "Are you all right, miss?" Reagan nodded, rubbing her wrist where Tyler's fingers had dug in. "Yes, thank you." The billionaire's declaration, the man stepped onto the terrace, and suddenly the space felt smaller. He moved with the grace of someone completely comfortable in his own skin, each step deliberate and controlled. When he spoke again, his attention returned to Tyler, and his voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Declan Hayes?" he said simply, as if the name alone should mean something. From Tyler's sudden pale expression, it clearly did. "And you are trespassing on private property. This gala is invitation only, and I know for a fact you were not invited." Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I bought a ticket." "From a scalper, I imagine," Declan said coolly. "Security has been looking for you since you arrived. Apparently there is a restraining order preventing you from approaching Miss Brooks here. That makes your presence both unwelcome and illegal." Reagan's breath caught. How did this stranger know about the restraining order? How did he even know her name? A dangerous escape Tiller's face flushed red with anger and humiliation. "This is not over, Reagan," he spat. "You can hide behind your rich friends, but I will find you. You belong to me." Declan moved so fast that Reagan barely saw it. One moment he was standing several feet away, the next his hand was clamped around Tyler's shoulder. His grip clearly painful from the way Tyler winced. "If you ever threaten her again," Declan said quietly, "if you even look in her direction, I will make it my personal mission to destroy every aspect of your miserable existence. Do you understand me?" 2 security guards appeared at the terrace entrance, and Declan released Tyler with a slight shove toward them. "Escort Mr. Morrison from the premises. Make sure he understands he is banned from all future events at this venue." As Tyler was led away, still sputtering threats and curses, Reagan sagged against the balustrade. Her legs felt weak, and her heart was racing so fast she felt dizzy. "The unexpected savior here," Declan said, his voice gentler now. He produced a handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to her. "You are shaking." Regan took it gratefully, pressing the cool fabric against her neck. "Thank you. I do not know how to repay you for that. No repayment necessary." He studied her face, those blue eyes seeming to see right through her carefully maintained composure. "Though I do think we should get you away from here. Tyler Morrison has a history of not accepting no for an answer." She stiffened. "How do you know about Tyler?" "About me?" A slight smile crossed his lips, not quite reaching his eyes. "I make it my business to know things, Miss Brooks, especially when I see a woman in distress at an event I am hosting." "You are hosting this gala?" Reagan's mind raced. Declan Hayes. The name suddenly clicked into place. The tech billionaire who had revolutionized artificial intelligence and made his first billion before 30, he was notoriously private, rarely photographed, and known for his ruthless business tactics. "I had no idea. Most people do not," he said. "I prefer to keep a low profile. But that is beside the point. Right now, you need protection from a man who clearly has no respect for boundaries or the law. I can provide that protection." The offer she cannot refuse. Reagan's instincts screamed at her to be cautious. She had just escaped one controlling man. Was she really going to trust another stranger, no matter how he had helped her? But Declan seemed to read her hesitation. "I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, Miss Brooks. I am simply offering you a safe place to stay until proper security measures can be arranged. You can bring a friend if it makes you more comfortable. But standing here debating while Tyler Morrison is likely circling the building, looking for another way to get to you, seems unwise." He had a point. Reagan glanced toward the ballroom where the party continued in blissful ignorance of the drama that had just unfolded. She thought about her small apartment across town, the locks that Tyler had already proven he could pick, the restraining order that was just paper, as Tyler had so cruelly pointed out. "All right," she heard herself say, "but just for tonight. I will figure out something more permanent tomorrow." Declan's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction, perhaps. "Of course. My car is waiting in the private garage. If you will follow me, Then the ride to Declan's estate was silent, except for the soft purr of the luxury sedan's engine. Reagan sat stiffly in the leather seat, acutely aware of the man beside her. He had shed his jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, revealing strong forearms. He typed on his phone with swift efficiency, apparently handling business even at this hour. "I have arranged for your belongings to be collected from your apartment tomorrow," he said without looking up. "My security team will ensure everything is packed safely." Regan bristled. "That is not necessary. I can get my own things." Oh, he did look at her, one dark eyebrow raised. "Can you? Tyler knows where you live. He likely has your schedule memorized. Going back there alone would be foolish at best, fatal at worst." The blunt words sent a chill down her spine because they were true. Tyler had been escalating for months. The threatening texts, the flowers left on her doorstep despite the restraining order. The way he seemed to know her every move. "Fine," she conceded. "But I will pay you back for whatever this costs. We can discuss payment later." Something in his tone made her look at him sharply, but his expression gave nothing away. The glass palace Declan's estate was not a home. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. The gates were wrought iron and at least 12 feet high. The driveway wound through manicured gardens, lit by soft landscape lighting. The house itself was an architectural marvel. All glass and steel and clean lines that spoke of wealth beyond measure. Inside was equally impressive. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, and furniture that looked like art installations. Everything was pristine, cold, perfect. Like a magazine spread rather than a place where someone actually lived. "The guest suite is on the 3rd floor," Declan said, leading her to a private elevator. "It has its own bathroom and sitting room. You should find everything you need, but if not, there's a phone that connects directly to the household staff." Reagan followed him down a hallway lined with abstract paintings. The guest suite was larger than her entire apartment, decorated in soft grays and whites. A massive bed dominated the room, covered in what looked like silk sheets. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city lights below. "This is too much," she said quietly. Declan stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Nothing is too much when it comes to ensuring your safety, Miss Brooks." "Reagan," she corrected. "If I am staying in your home, you can call me Reagan." Reagan. The way he said her name made something flutter in her chest. "Then you should call me Declan." The price of protection. She turned to face him fully. "Why are you doing this?" "You do not know me. I am no one important. On the contrary." He stepped into the room, his presence overwhelming in the intimate space. "You are the curator of one of the most prestigious art galleries in the city. You have a degree from Princeton and a reputation for discovering emerging artists before anyone else notices them. You volunteer at a women's shelter on weekends, and you are currently being stalked by a dangerous man who will not stop until someone stops him." Reagan's mouth went dry. "You really do make it your business to know things." "I told you. I do my research." He paused and something shifted in his expression. The cool mask cracked just slightly. "But there is another reason I am helping you, Reagan. I need something from you in return." Her stomach dropped.
God.
Nothing in life was free, especially not from men like Declan Hayes. "What do you want?" He moved to the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. When he spoke, his voice was measured, almost clinical. "My grandmother controls the family trust that includes the company I built. She has decided that I need to settle down, get married, show that I am capable of commitment beyond quarterly earnings reports. If I do not, she will transfer controlling interest to my cousin, who will undoubtedly destroy everything I have worked for." Reagan's heart began to pound. "What does that have to do with me?" Declan turned, and those blue eyes locked onto hers with laser focus. "I need a fiancé, Reagan. Someone convincing. Someone who can play the role for 6 months until my grandmother releases the trust. And in exchange, I will ensure Tyler Morrison never comes near you again. You will have my protection, my resources, and enough money when this is over to start fresh anywhere you want." The room spun slightly. A fake engagement. 6 months of pretending to be in love with a man she had just met. It was insane, but the alternative was going back to her apartment, looking over her shoulder every day, wondering when Tyler would make good on his threats. "I need time to think," she managed to say. "You have until morning," Declan replied. His voice was gentle, but firm. "But Reagan, understand this. If you say yes, you will be mine for those 6 months. In public, we will be a couple in every sense of the word. Can you handle that?" She looked at him, this stranger who had saved her life, and was now asking her to surrender 6 months of it. His jaw was set, his posture perfect, every inch the ruthless billionaire. But in his eyes, she thought she saw something else, something almost vulnerable. "I will have my answer in the morning," she whispered. Declan nodded once and walked to the door. He paused at the threshold, looking back at her. "Sleep well, Reagan. Tomorrow, everything changes." The door closed softly behind him, and Reagan sank onto the silk-covered bed. Outside the windows, the city glittered like scattered diamonds. She thought about Tyler's grip on her wrist, his threats, the fear that had become her constant companion. Then she thought about Declan's offer. 6 months, a performance, a price for her freedom. She touched her wrists where bruises were already forming and made her decision. Morning decisions. Reagan woke to sunlight streaming through the massive windows. Momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar luxury surrounding her, the silk sheets felt cool against her skin, and for a brief moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Tyler at the gala. Declan's intervention. The impossible offer. She found a note slipped under her door. Written in precise, angular handwriting, "Breakfast is at 8. We have much to discuss. D." The clock on the nightstand read 7:30. Reagan showered quickly in the marble bathroom, grateful to find new toiletries and a plush robe waiting for her. Her emerald gown from last night hung in the closet, but beside it was a simple cream-colored dress in exactly her size. She tried not to think too hard about how Declan had known. The contract begins a clan. Was already seated at a glass table on the terrace when she arrived. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, looking like he had been awake for hours. The table was set with fresh fruit, pastries, and coffee that smelled heavenly. "Good morning," he said, standing as she approached. His eyes scanned her face. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as could be expected." Regan sat across from him, accepting the coffee he poured. "I have made my decision, and—" She met his gaze steadily. "I will do it. I will be your fiancé for 6 months, but I have conditions." A slight smile played at the corner of his mouth. "I expected nothing less." "Please tell me your terms." Ragoon had spent half the night thinking this through. "First, this is strictly business. What happens in public stays in public. I want my own bedroom, my own space. Second, after 6 months, you help me relocate to a new city with a new identity if needed. Tyler cannot find me. Third, I want a contract. Everything in writing." Declan pulled a folder from beside his chair and slid it across the table. "Already prepared. My lawyers worked through the night. You will find all your conditions met, plus a few additions I think you will appreciate." Reagan opened the folder, scanning the dense legal text. Her breath caught when she saw the compensation figure. It was enough to start over 10 times. "This is too much," she whispered. "It is exactly what you are worth." His voice was firm. "You are giving me 6 months of your life, Reagan. You deserve to be compensated fairly." Learning the rules, they spent the next hour going over the details. Reagan would move into the penthouse immediately. They would announce their engagement at a charity event in 3 days. She would accompany him to business functions, family dinners, and social events. In public, they would act like a couple deeply in love. "What about physical affection?" Reagan asked, her cheeks warming. "I need to know the boundaries." Declan's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those blue eyes. "We will need to appear convincing. Hand-holding, embracing, occasional kissing. Nothing more unless you consent. I am not Tyler Reagan. I will never force you into anything." The comparison stung because it was necessary. She needed to hear it. "My grandmother will be the hardest to convince," Declan continued. "She is sharp, observant, and has been trying to marry me off for years. We will need a believable backstory. How we met, how I proposed, why we fell in love. So we lie to your family. We tell them a story," he corrected gently. "One that protects both of us." The performance begins 3 days later. Reagan stood beside Declan at the Riverside Museum Gala, wearing a stunning sapphire gown that matched her engagement ring. The ring itself was a work of art, a flawless diamond surrounded by smaller sapphires that caught the light with every movement. "Ready?" Declan murmured, his hand warm on her lower back. Reagan nodded, her heart pounding. They had rehearsed their story a dozen times. They met at an art exhibition 6 months ago. He was immediately captivated by her passion for art. They had kept their relationship quiet to avoid media scrutiny. Last week, he proposed on a private beach at sunset. The moment they entered the ballroom, whispers erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward, calling questions. "Mr. Hayes, is it true you are engaged? Who is the lucky lady? When is the wedding?" Declan handled it with practiced ease, his arm protective around Reagan's waist. "This is my fiancé, Reagan Brooks. We are very happy and ask for privacy during this special time. Reagan smiled, playing her role perfectly, but inside, she felt like a fraud. Cracks in the armor. The evening was exhausting. Reagan shook hands, made small talk, and deflected personal questions while maintaining the image of a woman blissfully in love. Declan was attentive, bringing her champagne, introducing her to important people, his hand never straying far from her. It was during a quiet moment on the balcony that she saw something unexpected. An older woman approached Declan, her face tight with anger. "Dare you?" the woman hissed. "After what you did to my son? You have the audacity to show your face here?" Declan's expression went cold, but Reagan felt his body tense beside her. "Mrs. Patterson, this is neither the time nor the place. You destroyed his company, ruined his reputation. He lost everything because of you." "He lost everything because he embezzled from his investors," Declan said quietly, dangerously. "I simply exposed the truth." The woman's hand flew up, but Declan caught her wrist gently. "Go home, Mrs. Patterson. Your son made his choices. I will not apologize for doing what was right." After the woman left, Reagan touched Declan's arm. "Are you okay?" He looked surprised by the question, as if no one ever asked him that. "I am fine. Business creates enemies. It is unavoidable." But Reagan had seen the flash of pain in his eyes, quickly hidden behind his usual mask. For the first time, she wondered what it cost him to be Declan Hayes, this ruthless billionaire. The stalkers returned to weeks into their arrangement. Reagan received the first message. It came to her work email, bypassing all of Declan's security measures. "I see you found a rich protector. Did you really think that would stop me? You are mine, Reagan. Always." Her hands shook as she forwarded it to Declan. Within an hour, he arrived at the gallery, his face like thunder. "Pack your things," he said without preamble. "You are not staying at your apartment another night, Declan. I've been going back to my place on weekends. Your security team checks it every time, and Tyler still found a way to contact you." His jaw was tight. "I am not taking chances with your safety. You move into the penthouse full-time tonight." Reagan wanted to argue to maintain some independence, but the fear in her stomach was real. Tyler was escalating. That night, as Declan's team packed up her apartment, Reagan noticed something that made her blood run cold. Her spare key was missing from its hiding spot. Tyler had been inside her home. Unexpected comfort, the panic attack hit her in the car on the way back to the penthouse. Her chest tightened, her breathing came in short gasps, and the world started to spin. "Reagan." Declan's voice cut through the fog. "Look at me. Breathe with me." He took her hand, pressing it against his chest. "In 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Follow my breathing." Slowly, her panic subsided. She found herself leaning against him, his arm around her shoulders, his steady heartbeat grounding her. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I do not usually fall apart like that. You have nothing to apologize for." His voice was gentler than she had ever heard it. "Tyler violated your safe space. Anyone would be shaken." When they reached the penthouse, Declan did not leave her alone. He sat with her on the couch, pouring her tea, talking about mundane things until the shaking stopped. Reagan found herself telling him about her childhood, her dreams of becoming an artist, before she chose the safer path of curation. "Why did you give up painting?" he asked. She smiled sadly. "My father said art was a hobby, not a career. I was good at it, but not great. So I found another way to be close to it." Declan was quiet for a moment. "I think you should paint again. Not for a career. For yourself." The simple statement made tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone cared about what she wanted for herself? Crossing lines late that night, Reagan could not sleep. She wandered to the living room and found Declan there, staring out at the city lights. He had shed his usual armor, wearing only sweatpants and a t-shirt that showed off his athletic build. "Could not sleep either?" she asked softly. He turned, and something in his expression made her breath catch. Without his business persona, he looked younger, more vulnerable. "Too much on my mind?" Regan sat beside him on the couch. "Want to talk about it? Why are you being kind to me?" The question was abrupt. "I bought 6 months of your life. You should hate me. You saved me, she corrected. You offered me a way out when I had none. That is not something to hate you for.
Hey.
They sat in comfortable silence, and Reagan found herself studying his profile. The strong jaw. The slight crook in his nose, like it had been broken once. The way his hair fell across his forehead when he was not maintaining his perfect image. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Why do you need your grandmother's approval? You are a billionaire. You could walk away. Declan's hands clenched. That company is not just business. It is my legacy, my father's dream. He died when I was 20, left it to me in pieces. I built it into what it is today. Letting my cousin destroy it would be like letting my father down. The raw emotion in his voice surprised her. She reached out, covering his hand with hers. Then we will make sure that does not happen. He looked at their joined hands, then up at her face. You are not what I expected, Reagan Brooks. What did you expect? Someone easier to keep at a distance. His voice was rough. Someone who did not make me want to. He did not finish the sentence. Instead, he leaned forward, his hand cupping her cheek. Tell me to stop. Reagan's heart hammered. She should stop this. Should maintain the professional boundaries they had agreed upon. But his thumb was tracing her cheekbone. His eyes were dark with want. And she found herself leaning into his touch. I am not telling you to stop, she whispered. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, questioning. Then something ignited between them. Reagan's hands slid into his hair, pulling him closer. Declan's arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her onto his lap. The kiss deepened, became urgent, desperate. Like they were both starving for this connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Declan rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things, I know, the contract said. I do not care what the contract said. Reagan pulled back to look at him. This is real, Declan. What I feel right now, that is real. His eyes searched hers, and she saw the war happening behind them. The part of him that wanted to retreat, to hide behind his walls, and the part that wanted to let her in. Reagan, he started, but was interrupted by his phone buzzing urgently on the table. He grabbed it, his expression darkening as he read. Tyler broke into your apartment. The security team just caught him on camera. Reagan's stomach dropped. When? 20 minutes ago. Declan was already moving, making calls. He destroyed everything. Your clothes, your paintings, your furniture. The police are there now, but he is gone. The message was clear. Tyler was not giving up. And the 6 months of safety Declan had promised suddenly felt like borrowed time. The point of no return the next morning. Reagan found a package waiting outside the penthouse door. No return address. Inside was a dozen dead roses and a note in Tyler's handwriting. You cannot hide from me forever. Declan Hayes cannot protect you. You are mine. Declan took one look at it and made a decision. I am hiring private security. Former military. They will be with you whenever I cannot be. Declan, that is excessive. Tyler escalated from emails to breaking into your home. What do you think comes next? His voice was sharp with fear, though he tried to hide it. I will not let him hurt you. Reagan saw the determination in his eyes and realized something had shifted. This was not just about their arrangement anymore. Somewhere in the past 2 weeks, Declan had started to care. Really care? What are we doing? She asked softly. This was supposed to be business. He stepped close, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. It stopped being just business the moment I kissed you. Maybe even before that. I do not know when it happened, Reagan, but you matter to me. Your safety, your happiness, that matters. But the contract, forget the contract. His voice was rough with emotion. I need you to understand something. 6 months from now, when this arrangement ends, I do not want you to leave. I want you to stay. Not because of Tyler or my grandmother or any deal. Because you want to be here? With me? Reagan's breath caught. This was the moment. The point where everything changed or ended? Before she could answer, his phone rang again. The security team. They had tracked Tyler to a motel across town. The police were moving in as Declan coordinated with his team, Reagan touched the engagement ring on her finger. It was supposed to be fake, a prop for their performance. But when she looked at Declan, saw the fear and care in his eyes, she knew the truth. Somewhere along the way, she had fallen for him. The cold billionaire had become the man who made her tea during panic attacks, who wanted her to paint again, who kissed her like she was precious. But the question remained. When the 6 months ended and his grandmother released the trust, would he still want her? Or was this just another performance, more convincing because they both believed it? The arrest Tyler Morrison was arrested that afternoon, charged with stalking, breaking and entering, and violating a restraining order. Reagan watched the news coverage from Declan's office, his hand steady on her shoulder as the camera showed Tyler being led away in handcuffs. "It is over," Declan said quietly. "He will not be able to hurt you anymore." But Reagan felt hollow. She should be relieved, ecstatic even. Instead, she felt unmoored. Tyler had been the reason for this arrangement. Without that threat, what held her and Declan together? As if reading her thoughts, Declan turned her chair to face him. "This does not change anything between us. You understand that, right? Does it not?" Her voice was small. "I am safe now. You do not need to protect me anymore." His jaw tightened. "Is that what you think this has been about?" "Obligation. I do not know what to think." Reagan stood, pacing to the window. The city stretched below, indifferent to her turmoil. "We have been playing a role for so long, I am not sure what is real anymore." Declan came up behind her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Then let me make it real. Have dinner with me tonight. Not as my fake fiancé, not as part of our arrangement. Just Reagan and Declan getting to know each other." She turned to face him, searching his expression. "A date?" "A date," he confirmed, a slight smile playing at his lips. "I promise to be charming and completely inappropriate with my intentions." Despite everything, Reagan laughed. "When have you ever been anything but inappropriate?" "Fair point." His thumb traced her jawline. "So is that a yes?" "Yes." The word felt like a leap off a cliff. "Yes, I will have dinner with you." Namsking truth. That evening, Declan took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. No photographers, no society watchers, just soft music and the smell of garlic and wine. "I used to come here with my father," Declan said as they settled into a corner booth. "Before he got sick?" "Before everything changed." Reagan saw the vulnerability in his admission. "Tell me about him." Over pasta and wine, Declan opened up in a way he never had before. He spoke about his father's dreams for the company, the pressure of living up to that legacy. He talked about the loneliness of success, the way people always wanted something from him. "That is why I built walls," he admitted. "It is easier to keep people at a distance than to be disappointed when they leave." "Not everyone leaves," Reagan said softly. "Some of us stay." His hand found hers across the table. "I am beginning to believe that." Reagan shared her own stories. Her mother's death when she was 12. Her father's emotional distance. The way she poured all her feelings into art because it was safer than expressing them to people who might leave. "We are quite a pair," Declan said with a wry smile. "To people who do not trust easily, pretending to be in love, only to discover we might actually be falling." The words hung between them, electric with possibility. "Are we?" Reagan asked, her heart pounding. "Falling?" Declan leaned across the table, his eyes intense. "I am terrifyingly so. You walked into my carefully controlled life and turned everything upside down. I do not know how to do this, Reagan. How to be vulnerable. How to trust. But I want to try. For you," tears pricked Reagan's eyes. "I am scared, so am I." He squeezed her hand. "But maybe being scared together is better than being safe alone." Family judgment. The next major test came a week later. Dinner with Declan's grandmother. Claudia Hayes was a formidable woman in her 70s, sharp-eyed and sharper-tongued. She lived in a sprawling estate that felt more like a museum than a home. "So you are the girl who finally caught my grandson's attention," Claudia said as they settled in the formal dining room. Her gaze raked over Reagan, assessing, measuring. "Tell me, dear, what makes you different from all the others?" Reagan felt Declan tense beside her. but she kept her composure. "I do not think I am different, Mrs. Hayes. I think your grandson is different than people realize. Most only see the businessman. I am lucky enough to see the man." Claudia's eyebrows rose. "Pretty words. But I have heard pretty words before. Declan, leave us. I want to speak with Reagan alone." Grandmother Declan protested, but Claudia waved him off. "Go. I promise not to eat her." When they were alone, Claudia's expression softened slightly. "Let me be frank, my dear. I know a performance when I see one. I have been in this family long enough to recognize when something is staged for my benefit." Reagan's heart stopped. They had been caught, but Claudia continued, surprising her. "However, I also recognize when two people are genuinely falling for each other, even if they started with dishonest intentions. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I do not understand," Reagan managed. "My grandson hired you to play a role. I am not a fool. But what started as a transaction has become something real. I see it in the way he looks at you, the way you soften when he enters a room. So I will ask again, what are you going to do about it?" Reagan took a shaky breath. "I love him. I did not mean to, but I do. The problem is, I do not know if he feels the same, or if this is still just an arrangement to him." Claudia reached across the table, patting Reagan's hand. "That boy has been alone his whole life, even before his father died. He learned to protect himself by never letting anyone close. If you love him, you need to fight for him. Make him see that love is worth the risk." When Declan returned, his grandmother announced she was releasing the trust early. "You have proven you can commit to something beyond quarterly reports. The company is yours without conditions." As they drove home, Reagan was quiet, processing everything. The arrangement was effectively over. Declan had what he needed. Now came the real test. Would he still want her? The final threat, the answer came sooner than expected. That night, as Reagan prepared for bed, she heard shouting from the living room. She rushed out to find Declan on the phone, his face pale. "How did he get out?" Declan was saying, "You told me he would be held without bail." Reagan's blood ran cold. "Tyler?" Declan ended the call, his expression grim. "His family posted bail. He is out. And Reagan, he went straight to your old apartment. The security footage shows him asking neighbors where you went. He is looking for me. He is coming here." Declan was already moving, checking the security system. "My team is on alert. Nothing will happen to you, I promise." But promises felt fragile against Tyler's obsession. Reagan found herself shaking. All the progress she had made crumbling in the face of her fear. Declan pulled her into his arms, his embrace solid and steady. "Listen to me. Tyler will not get to you. I will not allow it. Cannot control everything," she whispered against his chest. "Watch me." Breaking point, the attack came at 2 a.m. The security alarms blared as motion sensors detected someone on the grounds. Declan's team mobilized immediately, but Tyler had planned well. He had cut through the fence at the property's edge, avoiding the main sensors. Reagan woke to find Declan standing in her doorway, his expression terrified. "Stay in here. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me." "Declan? What? Just do it." The sharpness in his voice scared her more than anything. Through the window, Regan saw flashlights moving across the grounds. Heard shouting, then a gunshot. Her scream was swallowed by silence. Time stretched as she waited, heart pounding, praying Declan was safe. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a knock on her door. "Reagan, it is me." "Open up." She threw the door open to find Declan standing there, disheveled but unharmed. Behind him, security guards were restraining Tyler, who was screaming threats and curses. "He had a gun," Declan said quietly. "He was trying to get to the penthouse. My team stopped him before he reached the building." Reagan threw herself into his arms, sobbing with relief. "I thought you were hurt." "I heard a shot, warning shot." His arms tightened around her. "It is really over now. He is going back to jail, and this time there will be no bail." As the police led Tyler away, still screaming Reagan's name, she realized something fundamental had shifted. She had spent so long afraid, so long running. But standing there in Declan's arms, She felt safe in a way she never had before, not because he could protect her from every threat, but because he would try. Because he cared enough to put himself between her and danger. The confession. After the police left and the sun started to rise, Reagan and Declan sat together on the terrace, wrapped in blankets, watching the city wake up. "I have something to tell you," Declan said quietly, "and I need you to listen before you say anything." Reagan's heart stuttered, but she nodded. "When I first asked you to be my fake fiancé, it was purely business. A solution to a problem. You were beautiful and intelligent, and you needed help. It seemed like a fair exchange." He paused, his hand finding hers. "But you complicated everything from the first day. You saw through my walls. You made me laugh. You made me want things I had convinced myself I did not need." "Declan, please let me finish." His voice was rough with emotion. "These past few months, every moment with you has been real to me. The way you challenge me, the way you call me out when I am being cold, the way you look at me like I am not just a billionaire or a CEO, but a person. I fell in love with you, Reagan. Somewhere between our first kiss and tonight, probably long before that, I fell completely, irrevocably in love with you." Tears streamed down Reagan's face. "You love me?" "I love you." He turned to face her fully, his hands cupping her face. "I know we started with lies and contracts, but this is real. What I feel is real, and I am terrified because I've never felt this way about anyone. You have the power to destroy me, and I am giving you that power willingly." Reagan's hands covered his, her voice shaking. "I love you too. I have been so scared to say it, so scared you would tell me it was still just an arrangement, but I have loved you for weeks, Declan. Maybe since you first made me tea during my panic attack. Maybe since you told me I should paint again. I do not know when exactly, but I know it is real." The kiss that followed was different from all the others. It was not performance, or passion, or desperation. It was truth. It was promise. It was the beginning of something neither of them had believed possible. New beginnings 3 months later. Reagan stood in the penthouse that had become home, looking at the canvas in front of her. She had started painting again, filling the walls with color and life. Declan had converted an entire room into a studio for her. Claiming he liked having beauty in his fortress, the 6-month contract had expired weeks ago. Reagan had torn it up ceremoniously, laughing as Declan pretended to be offended. They were together now because they chose to be, not because of any deal. Tyler was serving 3 years for stalking, assault, and illegal possession of a weapon. His family had disowned him. Reagan no longer woke up afraid. The engagement ring on her finger was no longer fake. Declan had proposed properly, taking her back to that small Italian restaurant. Getting down on one knee like a man who had never been sure of anything in his life but was choosing to risk everything anyway. "What are you working on?" Declan's voice came from the doorway. Reagan turned, her heart still skipping when she saw him. "A portrait. Of a man who saved my life and then asked for something impossible." He moved behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. "And did he get it? That impossible thing?" "He got something better." She leaned back against him. "He got something real." Declan turned her to face him, his eyes soft with love. "I used to think emotion was weakness, that needing someone made you vulnerable. But you taught me that vulnerability is strength. That love does not make you weak, it makes you human. And you taught me that not all powerful men are dangerous," Reagan replied, her hand on his cheek. "Some are just scared boys who learn to hide too well. Scared boys who are terrified of messing this up," he admitted. She kissed him softly. "Then it is good we are both scared. We can figure it out together." The end of the beginning. Their wedding was small and intimate. Held in the garden of the estate where Declan's grandmother had first seen through their performance, Claudia stood as Reagan's witness, whispering that she always knew they would end up here, as Reagan walked down the aisle toward the man who had once been a stranger offering an impossible deal. She thought about the night at the gala when Tyler had cornered her. How terrified she had been. How lost. And then Declan had appeared. Not as a white knight, but as a man with his own fears and walls. Together they had both learned what it meant to trust, to love, to be vulnerable. "I have something for you," Declan whispered after they exchanged vows. He handed her a small painting, one she had done in college and thought was lost. I tracked it down. Your father had it in storage. I thought you should have it back. Reagan looked at the painting of a girl standing at the edge of a cliff, arms spread wide, about to jump or fly. She had painted it the week before she gave up art. Why this one? She asked through tears. 'Cause it is you, Declan said softly. You are always brave enough to leap, even when you are scared. You leaped into our arrangement. You leaped into loving me. You changed my entire life because you were willing to jump. She kissed him as the small crowd applauded, tasting salt from her happy tears. We leaped together. That night, standing on the terrace of their home, the city glittering below them, Reagan thought about beginnings and endings. Their story had started with a desperate bargain. A cold transaction meant to solve two separate problems, but somewhere in the performance, they had found truth. In the lies, they had discovered honesty. In the contract, they had created commitment that went far deeper than any legal document. Declan pulled her close, his lips brushing her temple. No regrets? Reagan smiled, thinking of Tyler, of her fear, of the night that changed everything. Not a single one. You asked for something I thought I could never give. And what was that? Trust, love, a future. She turned in his arms, her eyes meeting his. But it turns out I had it to give all along. I just needed someone worth giving it to. And did you find that someone? He asked, though his smile said he knew the answer. I did, she whispered against his lips. I found everything I never knew I needed in a man who saved me from danger, but asked for my heart. And somehow, that impossible price became the greatest gift I ever gave. They kissed as the city lights flickered below. Two people who had started as strangers bound by contract and fear, now joined by choice and love. The cold billionaire had learned to feel. The frightened woman had learned to trust. And together, they had discovered that the most impossible demands sometimes lead to the most beautiful beginnings. The story that started. With the cold billionaire saved me from my ex. But he asked for something I could never give had become something else entirely. It became a story of two broken people who found wholeness in each other. Of walls torn down and hearts opened. Of risks taken and rewards far beyond imagination. It became simply a love story. And in the end, that was the only story that mattered.